Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Charini Nirvise Susunyavadi Pasantari Satari. When I came out into the garden, saw all those nice flowers, I forgot we are having a boat festival. I was very tempted to keep on walking straight. That would have made a very memorable boat festival. If you remember in Hastinapur, or at least in Yudhishthira Maharaj's palace, then Vishwakarma, who was the engineer of the demigods, he designed the palace to be full of bodies of water, nice bodies of water like this, and of course, nice walking spaces and so on. But the unique feature is that if someone who came in who was envious of Yudhishthira Maharaj's opulence and wealth, then they would see the dry land to be water and the water to be dry land. So, of course, when Duryodhana came, and he was very envious that they had more or less banished Pandavas from their rightful position, and so they came to what is now New Delhi and constructed a whole city with the help of Krishna and the demigods. So when Kurus came, especially Duryodhana, who was always envious of the Pandavas, so he came in, and because that was the nature of the engineering, so he saw the solid land as water and the water as solid land, and therefore as soon as he made his first step, he fell into a pool of water. And that's when Draupadi really laughed. And even though Yudhishthira Maharaj tried to control her not to laugh, but Duryodhana got very, very angry, and that's when he swore that he would also make sure that she would be humiliated in the same way that he was humiliated. And that came later on with the gambling match. So many things are taking place today in our calendar. Hanumanji's appearance, who is such an extraordinary personality, and of course, he is one of the main players of Ramayana, main player being Lord Ramachandra and Sita Devi. And over and above that, Hanuman is an example of how somebody very powerful, very learned. Sometimes we think, well, he's just a monkey, although not quite that. He's a Varuna, which means a forest dweller, but they're more than just ordinary monkeys. They have superhuman powers, and they're extremely also learned. So he's a pundit. But nonetheless, Lord Ramachandra took advantage of Hanuman, other actually monkeys, bears, forest animals, in order to fight with and ultimately defeat Ravan. In Sri Lanka, which Srila Prabhupada would say is not the Lanka of today. I visited what is called Sri Lanka today. Before it was called Ceylon, and they have a supposedly a garden where Sita Devi was imprisoned, and also a mountain on top of which, well, it's a rock. It's one big rock, on top of which was supposed to be Ravana's palace. But it doesn't add up to the scriptural description that Hanumanji jumped 100 yojanas, so he jumped 800 miles from the tip of from Kanyakumari, from the very tip of India. And anybody who's been to Sri Lanka, you know that it's not 800 miles. It's very, very close. So what is that so-called bridge to this current Lanka? What is this current Lanka? Ultimately, we go by the description of Shastra and not necessarily by these definitions or names that people may give their country. I just came from Sridham Mayapur, which is just north of Calcutta, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace. I spent 6 months of the year there and 6 months of the year between the UK and Hungary. And we are on this side of the Ganga, which means that we are on, let's see, the Ganga's flowing that way, so we are on the west side of the Ganga, and there is a yoga pit, which is the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. On the other hand, on the east side of the Ganga, they've also established a birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, which is the real birthplace, that one or this one. Of course, there are a good thing, there are maps, historical maps, that shows the actual movement of Ganga Devi. She shifts her movements. But in any case, according to scripture, according to self-realized souls, the birthplace is on the west side. It's not on the east side. And yet still, so many people are going on the east side. They call it Prachini, the old yoga pit. There's no old or new, there's just one. There's just one place that the Lord appeared. So this type of misunderstandings are there and are also going on. Just like the appearance of Lord Ramachandra. When did Lord Ramachandra appear? If you go by careful calculation, it goes back 18 million years. Now, sometimes it's said that it was 2 million years ago that Lord Ramachandra appeared. But the other calculation is also 18. In any case, it gives an idea of just how old Indian culture is. So when people talk about some Aryan invasion coming into India, there's no Aryan invasion. The Aryans are already there in India. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, Anaryam Justa Aishwaryam Akirtikar. Anarya, he tells Arjuna, your behavior is not befitting an Arya. So now that was 5,000 years. Of course, you will have Indiologists and historians saying that the Bhagavad Gita is maybe 1,000 years old, 1,200 years old. Now, who do we believe? We're going to believe people who maybe they went to India once and they themselves neither believe in Bhagavad Gita or believe in Krishna or practice anything that Krishna says, but yet they're the experts. Or, for instance, in Mahabharata, the astrological configuration of the Mahabharata, the beginning of the Mahabharata war is there. Now that dates back 5,000 years. And astrology is really quite a defined and established science. So it isn't just that someone made it up that this took place 5,000 years ago. And of course, there are so many other references that define the timeline of Vedic culture, Indian culture, and we certainly shouldn't let Westerners, scholars, and materialistic or atheistic people try to contradict the actual statements of our original Shastra. Krishna and Balaram, they played holy together on the full moon. And it's quite a rare occasion. We know that Krishna enjoys rasa dance with the gopis, but now here was Krishna and Balaram together. And they were with their own friends, girlfriends, and at the same time they were also playing holy. So it was a very extraordinary occasion. Technically speaking, Holi is already completed. It was finished quite some time ago. But this was a special time. And at that same time, there was, of course, you know, Kamsa was another one of these envious personalities, like Duryodhana, but he was very determined that he was going to do away with Krishna because he had heard this prophecy that the ninth son of Vasudeva was going to actually kill him. So he knew where Krishna was. Krishna was in Vrindavan. So many demons, starting with Putana and Trinavarta, and all of these came. But they all met with their death. Now, as time went on, and if you've been, I'm sure most of you have been to Mathura, Vrindavan. So there's, if you go by the road, the straight road that leads there, it's only 8 miles, so 12 kilometers. So very, very close. News easily spread of what's going on there. And news came to Kamsa that in the evenings, Krishna would go out and he would dance in this type of weather. When I came from Mayapur, it was just as hot as this, but more humid. In any case, and he heard that Krishna has one very favorite girlfriend whose name is Radharani. So Kamsa sent this demon, whose name was, what was his name? Oh, Shankachuda. And Shankachuta was once one of the guards of Kubera, and he had this Shamantaka gem, and that was on his crown. He was wearing it in his crown. So it was this Shamantaka ended up being the source of a lot of issues and pastimes in Krishna's Leela, even up to when he had gone to Dwarka. But in any case, that gem was in his crown, and he was considered himself to be very powerful. So Kamsa told him, he said, bring me that girl. So bring Radharani. So in the midst of all of the gaiety that is going on between Balaram and Krishna and dancing at night, then he came and he thought, well, these two boys have a lot of girlfriends. Why should I just take one? I'll take a whole bunch. So he started by ushering and carrying away. He was very fearsome looking. So scaring these girls, Radharani, along with some other ladies, and he was driving them away at a distance. Obviously, when they started to cry out, Krishna immediately wanted to come to their rescue. So he couldn't move, say, 100 girls at such a speed. So ultimately, he just took Radha first by the hair, and then later on he picked her up and he ran. And as he was running, then Krishna came running behind him. And then at a certain point, Krishna caught up with him. There was this fierce battle between the two, and obviously who came out the victor, that was Krishna. And Krishna took this very valuable gem, and he wanted to give it to Radharani. Data Pralambari Purudvata Shankachuda. So, but he thought giving it directly is not such a very good idea, because then they'll become envious. So he gave it to Madhumangal. Madhumangal gave it to Balaram, and then Balaram later gave it to Sri Radha. No one could complain what Balaram did because he's the eldest. So that took place. We used this number 5,000 years ago. Actually, Krishna's appearances, I forget now the exact date, but if you Google it, one of the conveniences of Google is that you can even find out such information. What is considered to be the actual date of Krishna's appearance? And of course, Krishna stayed in Vrindavan for 11 years, and he stayed on the planet for 125. And the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam describes that 125 years and the most important of the pastimes that take place at that time, or took place at that time. Srila Prabhupada had also presented that part of the Bhagavatam in what he called the Krishna book, and it was very, very wonderful reading, both for adults and for children. So if one doesn't have it, we should. And of course, there's often the terminology that's used that this is mythology. Indian mythology, just like there's Greek mythology. So similarly, there's Greek mythology of different gods demigods. They're mostly all just demigods. It's a copy of Vedic culture, but mythology is based on the word myth. Myth means that it's not real. It's just stories that are generated, made up, and built upon over the years, the centuries, in order and develop a certain picture of a past culture. Who said that it's a mythology? What's the evidence that it's a mythology? Vyasadeva is sitting, he's writing in Sanskrit, very complex philosophy. What is Vyasadeva's interest? He was the greatest scholar in writing mythology. And nowhere does he say that this is mythology, but Janma karma chame devam evam joveti tattvataha. But it says that this is tattva, this is truth. This is not mythology, or that Krishna is a mythological figure. And there are various speculations, even one, I remember sometime back when I had a talk with some so-called educated person who's followed this idea that actually Krishna and some of his associates had actually come from another planet to this planet, and they took advantage of the simplicity of the cowherd community in order to sort of exploit them for their own sense gratification. I mean, that's mythology. Who says? How do we know? So we should not consider either the Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita, the Puranas, and all the Vedic literature, which is the wealth of Indian culture. This is not mythology, but this is actually transcendental science, and it's history. So there is another type of scientists. There are other Indologists, and those Indologists are the ones who live in India, of whom Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita. Evam parampara praptam vimam rajarsayo vithu. Now, why necessarily just accept the version of someone who is not indigenous to India, who doesn't really practice or live by Indian culture, instead of accepting, as Krishna says, this parampara, the system of disciplic succession where knowledge is confirmed, because the knowledge is already there in scripture. So that's written down. And that knowledge and the understanding of that knowledge is confirmed that this is not mythology, this is reality. And when, for instance, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Ete Changsa Kala Pungsa Krishnastu Bhagavat Swayam, that Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever culture, whatever language, whatever religion, people talk about God, ultimately they're talking about Krishna. They may know it, they may not know it, but this is who God is. And he has Ramadi Murti Sukalani Amena Tishtan. He has many, many incarnations, he has many forms. And Lord Ramachandra is Krishna's form as the Maryada Purushottam, the Supreme Lord who is so perfect at following all of the rules and regulations. So this is the true wealth or the real wealth of Indian culture. And when we celebrate these events, just like we're going to have this nice boat festival, then this also encapsulates and represents a pastime, helps us remember a pastime of Krishna boating in the evening with the gopis on the Jamuna, or sometimes the Manasiganga, which is by Govardhan Hill. It's only a lake now, but it used to be a river. Two rivers in Vrindavan. There's the Jamuna and there's the Manasiganga. So Krishna also enjoys, everyone likes that in the evening, in a very beautifully constructed boat with music playing, very romantic atmosphere, and full moon, under the full moonlight, nice aromatic breezes are blowing that carry the aroma of well, we have some, but we're in the middle of a desert, so it's limited. Floral aromas over here, but it's not like that in Vrindavan. It's so lush, so many beautiful trees, Bailey, Chameli, Jewy, so many, even just when I was leaving Mayapur in the gardens where we're living, the bushes and trees just literally exploded with flowers. It was wonderful. So in that atmosphere, it's very pleasant. And why do we do this? Because it helps us remember. It takes us back, and this is called, remembrance is called smarnam, and something that invokes remembrance or meditation, that is called an udipan. So just like I look at that lotus, this sort of metallic lotus just hanging over here, and it reminds me of what lotuses look like. Well, we don't have real lotuses here, but we have the plastic ones, but it reminds us of how wonderful and beautiful a lotus is. So something that invokes remembrance. And this is what a life of a devotee is. Seeing, as Krishna says in the Gita, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvam Chamai Pashyati, that someone who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me. So when we see a cloud, then, well, not so many clouds, but when we see a cloud, then the blackish complexion of that cloud reminds us, oh, this is just like Krishna. Or Krishna says, Rasaham apsupanteya, I'm the taste in water. So we're thirsty. When we drink water, our thirst is satisfied. Why? Because it has a certain type of ability. Water has the ability to quench one's thirst. So that ability, that Shakti, that potency, that's Krishna. So that then we can think about Krishna. And so many other things. Shashi Shudayo. And he says, I'm the light of the moon and the sun. Moonlight's for romance, but it's for Krishna's romance, not for our romance. But it meant for us to remember, oh yes, this is the time when full moon, when such and such pastimes took place. And by seeing Krishna everywhere, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra, then that is what makes us Krishna conscious. That is called consciousness of Krishna, God consciousness. And if we practice God consciousness, then we perfect our human form of life and make the most of that valuable opportunity that we have. So thank you very much for your patience. And you can see so many guests are here. Everybody's interested in the following events, then Govinda Dasi, it's yours. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna ki Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar ki Jai. Jai Gaur Premanande. Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 There's no microphone for Ranga. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Everyone together, real loud. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, everyone together. Rama, Hare Rama. Everyone together. Everyone together one more time, real loud. Rama, Hare Rama. One more time, real loud, everyone. Vivo. Everyone sing. Vivo.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare
Everyone together. Everyone together, really loud. Here we go.
Hare
Time, everyone. Really loud. Really loud.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
There you go.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Everyone, do well.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhupada Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Sham, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham.